Hi there, I'm Sam Sorbo for the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks so much for joining me. We got a lot to talk about today, and hopefully I won't have any technical issues like I've been having. So let's get started. We're getting into Thanksgiving. I have a couple of comments about Thanksgiving I want to share with you. Really important things. Also, why we're seeing more mandates at this time of year. And there's some sinister implications. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the presidential election, because that's still ongoing and contested, hotly contested. We're seeing a lot of stuff there. And before I get into all of that, I'm being joined by a new friend of mine, Tim James, who is the author of the health. Oh, I'm messing it up already. There it is, the Health Hero Show, to talk to you about your health, which actually I think is a really important thing to be discussing right now. So we'll see if I can get Tim to be in the program. I see him there. Can I hear you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Excellent. And we are recording. So hopefully this will work. I think I worked out the bugs, Tim. So I introduced you as the CEO, the founder of the chemicalfreebody.com, and also the host of the Health Hero Show, which is a podcast and a vodcast. So you can see it on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts from. And I'm a big podcast person these days, Tim. How about you?
Yeah, well, I did 4 of them yesterday.
But I also listen to them. I find that, and I put them on like fast speed. And it's like these downloads. If you get a good podcast, there's some really great sort of information and downloads that you can get. And I'm sure that I know that yours is actually more of that, the same. And what you talk about is something that's very, I would say, unique. It's not something that a lot of people are talking about, especially because of the depth that you go into things. If people can take a look at your shirt, that'll give us some indication of where this conversation is about to go. You want to tell us what's on your shirt?
Yeah, it says love when you poop.
Yes, don't we wish that we loved when we pooped? And actually, you shared with me in the past that you went through a period of your life where you really hated when you needed to eliminate, I'll say, because it was difficult and it was it caused you pain and that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, my digestive tract was really messed up, Sam. I was literally pooping rocks and blood was coming out for like 2.5 years. So my body was a mess. I had eczema on both of my elbows, my knee. Those were also cracking and bleeding. I had, my gut wasn't right. I was eating Tums and Rolaids like they were going out of style. My doctors wanted me going to Prilosec and other medications, and I said no. That was probably the best thing I did. I didn't know anything about health. I mean, I thought I did. I was eating lots of protein for muscles and milk for calcium for bones and all that stuff, doing what I was supposed to do. And I bought a book that said eat 5 smaller meals a day, and I tried to that. And, you know, I was always trying to get healthy, but I was at age 37, I was falling apart. I was almost 40 pounds overweight. I had, it was nights, you know, I wasn't sleeping well at night, no energy. And as an athlete playing baseball at a high level for 30 years, I wasn't very happy about this. And, you know, bleeding all over the place wasn't good. I actually ruined a vacation one time when I was in Peru, because I had to basically be driven in the middle of the night for 6 hours on a bumpy road and then go to a hospital in Piora. And I'm on the examination table in a third world country and flies are buzzing around me. And then I was with my wife's at the time's dad was a doctor. We're on this big vacation. And he we got a plane flight, flew into Lima and went right into surgery and that ruined our vacation. Then I was pushed back into the States in a wheelchair. So that's where I learned. I had my appendix out and I got into surgery right before it burst. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, appendix is not a big deal. You don't need it. It's probably the most important organ we have because it regulates the bacteria in your digestive tract and your gut, which is part of your immune system. So it's very important.
But the medical community tells us that it's not important. So I guess bacteria in your gut's not important, right?
Yeah, well, why is it there in the first place then?
Don't try your logic on me, Tim.
I try to use common sense. Like, sorry.
And actually, we do know that the bacteria in your gut is very important. And so a lot of what you do talks about that. But you also go into toxins.
Yeah. So this is when this show's over, hopefully everybody will go in and just type in 3 words: umbilical cord and chemical. Okay. This is very important. I did this about 8 years ago and about fell off my chair and I had a huge realization. So when you type that in, you're going to find the studies going back to 2005 where the scientists and the researchers and the doctors they look for 400 chemicals in the umbilical cord blood of young babies and young mothers, supposedly the healthiest of all of us, right?
Right.
And this, they were looking for 400 chemicals, but guess what, Sam? They found 250 of what they were looking for. 180 of those cause cancer. 212 cause developmental and brain disorders in humans and animals. And the researchers referred to this as a body burden. It literally drags down your immune system. So here's the problem. We have these microscopic no-see-ums. You can't see it, so you don't think it's out of sight, out of mind, and they are destroying your health. And that's why we spend $3.3 trillion on healthcare in the United States, yet we're the sickest human beings that have ever been on the face of the earth, right? You can't see these things. This is a major issue. It's a national crisis. We are completely polluted. We have bioaccumulated these toxins into our body. Where do they come from? Pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, pharmaceutical drugs. In some places in the United States, Sam, 1 gallon of tap water can have up to a half of a tablet of pharmaceutical drugs in it, a whole mixture. Think about it. Chemotherapy drugs, antibiotics, all these things can be in there.
I'll just throw in the medical community has strict guidelines about how you're supposed to dispose of your drugs. Don't flush them down the toilet because they are finding that they're showing back up in our water supply.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And, people, but here's the deal. You eat them and then you defecate them and urinate them out and perspirate them out. So they're getting back into the food chain and they don't break down for like 100,000 years. So all the drugs that have been consumed since the 1960s are in the water tables today. The paint in my house right here is off-gassing. The paint in your room, the carpets, anything made from crude oil that's been processed with chemicals turns into these acid-based substances. And your body's carbon-based, and they don't work together, and they never will. So I'm sitting there reading these studies in 2005, 2007, 2010, 2011, where they keep doing this research on the umbilical cord blood. And I sat back in my chair, and I'm like, oh my God, we are all polluted.
Oh, I thought you were about to say it's my mother's fault.
No, we're all polluted. We're just part of this crazy thing, and you can't see it. So that's where our company chemicalfreebody.com got started. Was I'm on a mission to bring attention to this and then give people solutions on how to get that stuff out and how to stop putting it in through the consumer products that you're purchasing, the makeups, the shampoos, the toothpaste. I mean, if your toothpaste says harmful if swallowed, contact the Poison Control Center, you may want to rethink putting that in your mouth again. So I came home and looked at my thing after I learned about it. I'm like, oh my God, that's what it said. And then I learned like sodium lauryl sulfate. What's that? Well, it's a known carcinogen. It's a suffocant used in soap. I look in my shampoo, first ingredient, sodium lauryl sulfate. Dang it. I didn't know any of this stuff. So this has been a mission. It's been a passion project. And guess what? It works because I've learned so many things over the last 10 years on how to get the stuff out of my body. And I'm 47 years old. And within 60 days of adopting these detox principles and flooding my body with nutrition, my body radically changed. I'm 47 today. I feel like I'm 19. I have abundant mental clarity. My energy is ridiculous. And I teach other people how to do that. My skin looks good. So if you want to have really good skin, you have to have a really healthy gut, good gut, and you'll have beautiful skin.
Well, the skin is the largest organ of the body, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So in a sense, your skin is sort of the ultimate expression of your health.
Yeah, it really is. And it's very permeable too. So when you take a shower, whatever's in that water, I think the rule of thumb is like 5-minute shower or something like that, or 7-minute shower is equivalent to drinking 8 glasses of water of whatever's in that water. That's going to go into your body and stay there. You brought up Purell hand sanitizers last time we chatted. And I'm like, I see this all the time where people are doing that even before COVID. They started putting those little stations outside of the grocery stores where people, like mothers and fathers, are putting the Purell in there, cleaning everything. And I'm like, no, don't do it. It kills 99.9%, but it leaves the 0.1% behind to get stronger and stronger and stronger. So we're breeding stronger bacteria, and that Purell is actually in hand sanitizers are killing the good bacteria on the outside of your hands with the bad, And the good bacteria is it's part of your immune system. It's on the outside of your skin and it's inside of your gut. So then your hands being permeable, your skin being permeable, it goes into your bloodstream, no liver to filter it, and goes right in, and it starts wiping out your gut bacteria as well. So this is and you also mentioned about, animal, antibiotics, right?
Yeah.
Last time we chatted.
So, and in fact, the medical community has mentioned that because we've been prescribing antibiotics, and we so easily prescribe antibiotics, the doctors today, they're like, oh, it's an infection, just give you an antibiotic, that we're developing sort of an immunity to the antibiotics now. And so that, or rather the bad guys are developing an immunity to the drugs that would treat them.
Yeah. And it goes even further, Sam, because they're 70% of and who hasn't had an antibiotic? I mean, almost everybody listening can probably raise their hand. They've been prescribed an antibiotic. Well, guess what?
Right.
70% of all the antibiotics made go to animals that we eat, like cows and chickens and pigs and that kind of stuff. And they do it because of the poor animal husbandry, the way they're raising them. They're feeding with genetically modified corn, genetically modified soy. And what ends up happening, Sam, is that these animals during the growing process develop acidosis in their body. So they have to give them these antibiotics to stop them from dying. And then they feed.
What is it? Sorry, Tim, I gotta ask, what is acidosis? I've heard of it, but I don't understand it.
Well, it's just that the body builds up a tremendous amount of acid in the body, and the body starts breaking down. Okay. And that's what's actually happening to us humans. We live a very acidic lifestyle. And the reason why it happens is cows are supposed to eat grass. They're not supposed to eat genetically modified corn. Okay. So their body just doesn't work. It's not the natural food. A polar bear eats the diet of the polar bear. Monkeys eat the diet of a monkey, and not vice versa. And that's what we're doing.
I'm not supposed to have an almond croissant every morning.
An almond croissant?
I'm not supposed to have donuts every day because they're not naturally occurring. What if I had a donut tree? I could go into my backyard and pick donuts.
Then I would just tell me how to get there, because I want to try that out. As long as it's not hybrid.
I'm sure.
But these are some of the problems we have. And now the manufacturers, they give them antibiotics even if they don't have acidosis, because they realize it gets them fatter and more meat. So it's better to sell, and they get them to sell faster. So here's the problem. You've eaten beef all your life, and it's got antibiotics in it. And then guess what? You go into the hospital for whatever reason, you pick up an infection, and they give you penicillin, that don't work. And they work all the way up to a Z-Pack, and it doesn't work, and you die. And this is happening, right now, just going into the hospital, 5% of people die from other things just by going into the hospital. Well, so you have a 5%. Yeah, it's crazy.
We've got superbugs in the hospital now, the MRSA and the, and I'm not even talking about COVID, but MRSA, and there's another one that's a very heavy duty bacteria.
Yeah. Yeah. And all these things could be handled very easily through natural means. What people forget about is that all these synthetic drugs are what they are that. They're synthetics. They're synthetic drugs. They're synthetic vaccines. They're synthetic vitamins. And it doesn't work. They're actually making synthetic food now too. So these are acid-based substances, and your body is carbon-based. And these two are never going to work together. It's just not going to happen.
I know that you're not just completely disparaging the medical community, because they do provide a service. The question is, can you get your body to a point where you will need less medical care, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we have to understand that the Western medicine was built during wartime. It was born out of wartime crisis management. People are getting their arms blown off, getting a bullet hole through their chest. They have to do radical things to keep you alive. And like I said, it's like, if I get in a car accident and my face gets scraped on the asphalt, yeah, please give me some antibiotics, right? And then do your surgeries and heal me. And this is where Western medicine absolutely shines. No question. These ER docs and the surgeons and the people, there's certain things, like maybe you have a mechanical issue with your heart, and a surgery can save your life or give you a higher quality of life. This is extraordinary and it's amazing. But for chronic care, completely fail. It's just, it's not working like at all. And we talked about something like, because we were talking about the antibiotics, what about garlic and olive oil? I learned that you can take 1/3 raw, fresh pressed garlic and 2/3 olive oil, stir it up and let it set for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because garlic is very caustic. It's about 3.3 on the acid scale. And then you can bandage it on a wound. I did this.
It's also really good against vampires.
Yeah. And what's left over, you can make salad dressing with it. Right. I'm serious. Like, it's super cheap. So I used this, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this thing. So my son's toe got infected, ingrown toenail. I put it on there, changed the bandage 2-3 times a day. And in 2 days, the infection had lifted. It was gone. I was able to get under there and pack some cotton underneath his toenail, and it grew out. Rather than him have to go in and have the surgery where you stick a needle down the tip of your toe, which is like that's a torture that they were using in Vietnam with like bamboo splinters, right? It's very painful, and you got to bite something. I've had it happen 3 times. It sucks.
What?
So he didn't have to go through all that pain and the expense and the driving there and all that stuff. I just did it at home. And then the leftover garlic became a salad dressing, right? So this is very powerful. Heather Mills, who dated Paul McCartney, the supermodel, she had her leg cut off in an accident, and that got infected in a hospital over in Europe. And then they had to chop off more of her leg. And then that got infected again. Then they had to chop off more of her leg. And then it got infected again. And her friend's like, look, if you don't take care of this, you're going to die. So she flew to the Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, which is where I started my journey. And they taught her about garlic and olive oil and how to bandage her stump. And in 2 weeks, she's running around the property on her prosthetic. What does that cost, Sam? Like $5? You know,
you know, I do believe that we put maybe too much faith in the medical community, only because there's a financial interest at stake, right? And so the pharmaceutical community has no interest in promoting garlic and olive oil as an infection agent, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing the same thing today if you want to talk about COVID. So we had hydroxychloroquine, but apparently, no, that's not allowed. It's not a good drug. You're not allowed to use it because it's been around for 60 plus years and it's cheap as all get out. And they wanted to develop a vaccine, and they needed to make a point that they needed funds to develop the vaccine. And so they literally imposed like laws and mandates and regulations to prevent the use of hydroxychloroquine, which makes me highly suspicious that it actually would work.
Yeah, they went even further than that. They did what's called checkbook science, and they had scientists basically lie, and they got papers published in the Lancet saying that hydroxychloroquine doesn't work.
Right.
Well, of course it didn't work because they were using way more than they were supposed to, and they didn't have it with zinc. Hydroxychloroquine is the taxi that takes the zinc into the cell, and then the zinc stops the virus from replicating. That's what zinc does. So over here at Chemical Free Body, I'm all about natural. But because of COVID and all the fear and stuff, I'm like, look, there are some pharmaceutical grade solutions. If you don't think that, nature's going to heal you because you've been brainwashed like I was for all your whole life, and you just think it's woo-woo stuff, then yeah, do hydroxychloroquine and zinc. We had all those doctors on the courthouse steps of the Supreme Court saying, I've treated 42 patients. I've treated 100 patients. I've treated a 92-year-old guy, hydroxychloroquine and zinc, and he healed just fine, no problem. And then there's other things like budesonide. Dr. Richard Bartlett down in Texas is using this inhaled steroid. It's like $200 out of pocket with zinc. And then guess what? Case after case after case, heal of the COVID deal. So we have all these things that are very inexpensive. And then what I heard recently is they're using remdesivir. Now, Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai came out. He broke down hydroxychloroquine and all the molecular pathways and how that works with zinc. He broke down the budesonide and how it works. And he broke down remdesivir. Remdesivir was the least attractive of all of them. He said if the virus mutates just a little teeny bit, then remdesivir is not going to work. And it's very expensive. It's like $3,000 a deal. Whereas like you said, hydroxychloroquine is a 67-year-old drug when used with zinc to transport the zinc in there works. So my question is like, why not just do it healthy in the first place? Why not load your body with zinc? You can buy a supplement, or you can eat lots of mung beans, the Chinese bean sprout that is riddled with zinc. And that's not only good for protecting you against viruses, but for men, it's great for prostate. If you have prostate concerns, you should be eating a tremendous amount of mung beans. Eating lots of vitamin A from green leafy vegetables, getting outside. They lock you down. Don't go outside and get vitamin D3 that will actually be like a little machine gun shooting holes in the virus. Stay inside and get more pollution. It's just the whole thing's backed up. And then vitamin C is antiviral. And for those people that are in serious condition, it's advanced COVID, their lungs are messed up and everything, you can do a high dose vitamin C IV and knock it out. And we have proof. The Los Angeles Times earlier this year I have an article and I print it in case they delete it, and Dr. Richard Bartlett out of Seattle was treating patients for COVID, elderly patients, and he picked it up. He's a 250-pound, 6'4", former football star from Northwestern University that played in the Rose Bowl. So he's a pretty tough dude, right? He wasn't expecting to get it, but he got it. And his health was getting worse and worse. Then they put him on a ventilator, which you never do when you have lung issues like that. It was stupid to do these ventilator deals. And then his health was failing, his kidneys, his heart was failing, and he was going to die. And his doctors did this radical experimental treatment. They put him on a what was it? It wasn't an inhaled steroid. It was something like they put him on some pharmaceutical drug thing. And then they also put him on what? High dose vitamin C IV. And then he was fine in 4 or 5 days. So we have proof from mainstream media that we have a doctor that healed in serious critical situation with COVID using high dose vitamin C IV. And we can also use high dose ozone or high dose silver, colloidal silver IVs, nanoparticle silver. So, but they don't talk about this stuff.
There's no financial interest in talking about that stuff. And the other thing that I was going to say is when they did the first study on hydroxychloroquine, they insisted that it be done on patients who were severely hampered by COVID, only the severest patients. And apparently it is much less effective the more advanced the disease is. So the idea is you take it almost as a prophylactic, which apparently they do because it's an anti-malaria all over Africa. So, which is why they're not experiencing, as far as I know, they're not experiencing the rate of infection that we have in the United States. But the other thing is the testing. And I don't want to take too much away from talking about what you do for the human body, but the testing that they do, here's the thing, the more tests they do and the more positive results that we get from the test, meaning the more cases we have, the less lethal the disease. That's what people don't seem to understand. There's no logic that people are putting into this. And so people
you're
are
right. You're absolutely
we
right.
have more cases, but more cases means a bigger denominator, and we still have the small numerator, meaning that it's a small number divided by an ever increasing number of cases, meaning it's not nearly as potent as we thought it was, or lethal.
Yeah, so let me just give you some, this is really important. On mainstream media, they're gonna have all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have two things. They're showing cases and they're showing deaths, okay? And we shouldn't really be looking at cases. And those cases aren't not cases. They're lying to the American public. It's not a case. Those are test results, okay?
Right.
Those are supposedly positive test results, which I'll get to. They're not cases. To be a case, you would have to test positive. You would have to have signs of an illness like a fever, chills, diarrhea, you're throwing up, your lungs are filling up with fluid. You go to a doctor, they take a chart on you. That becomes part of your medical information bureau, which is a permanent record. And now it's a case.
Right.
That's a case. And that's what people know. If they think about a case, you think about a doctor with a chart. That's a case.
And you hear about cases going up, you think, oh my gosh, the hospitals must be jam-packed. And they're not. They are not. And these cases are not cases. That's the thing that frustrates me, is because they're lying. Okay. Now here's the big problem. These PCR tests that they're doing, I can't really, I'll try to explain it. So they get a piece of like tissue under a microscope, like a cell, and then they zoom in on it. I think that's called a cycle. Okay. It's an amplification cycle.
Yeah, it's an amplification cycle. So they just think about this. You put a piece of tissue, human tissue, under a microscope, and you turn the microscope one zoom in. That's a cycle. 2 zooms, 3 zooms, 4, 5, 6, 7. You keep zooming in, zoom, zoom, zoom. After 17 cycles, I believe, most of the doctors that I follow are saying those results, you might as well just toss them out. All you're going to get is false positive after 17. Dr. Fauci said that after 35 cycles, the tests are useless. Right. But in the FDA's language, they're having the testing facilities do 40 cycles. So even what Fauci said is that the tests that they're using are throw them out. And we've seen proof of this. There was, in Florida a while back, 98% of the people or 100% of the people that came in to test for COVID tested positive. I mean, really, come on. comes out, and that's big news headlines, scare, fear.
Right.
And then later they find out that wasn't the case. It was only 9.8%, like 90% less than what they were saying. And then they put it on page 34 in 6 font. Sorry about that.
Right.
It wasn't the case.
The retraction is never as big as the first splash in the news.
Nope. And they forget about, they're on to the next fear tactic. 77 football players diagnosed with COVID. We're all going to die. And then later, oh, none of them were. Again, page 34, retraction. So fear. So the testing is lying. So whatever the cases are, they're not cases. Those are actually probably most of them false positive test results. So take that and just knock off about 90%. And that's about how many people that are actually infected with it. So But
the problem, Tim, is that people don't know that, and they're not thinking. They're following directions. They're just following the directions. Put the mask on. Sit down and shut up. Wait until the bell rings.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I'm looking something up here because I want to show you this. So also last night, a couple days ago, I was driving down the road here in Oregon in our small town, Canby, and I looked up and I saw a sign. And Sam, it just warmed my heart. And that sign, I'm blowing it up right now. I'll put it on my phone so for the people who can see, I couldn't believe it, but it says, check that out. Cloth masks don't stop viruses /science. Learn more at thecanbyclinic.com/mask. And a naturopathic doctor breaks it all down on the micron size of the viruses and how, 1,000 flu viruses can fly through one of the little particle holes in a cloth mask. So think about the cloth mask. 1,000 flu viruses can fly through one little hole. That's how small they are. People don't realize how tiny viruses are. And yes, some of them will get attached to these water droplets, but not all of them. And then they fly out. So what ends up happening though is that mass becomes a disgusting petri dish of viruses and bacteria, and it starts growing and growing, and people are touching it on average like a whole bunch of times a day. And the people that are sick with COVID or diagnosed with it, 87% of them are the ones that were wearing the mask. So I can tell you what will happen when you wear a mask. You're going to lower your oxygen levels by 35%. So, that's probably not a good idea because oxygen levels in core samples, ice samples showed us 300 years ago that our oxygen levels were around 35% on the planet, or 30%. And now they're about 14 to 16%. They're lower. And then inner cities could be as low as 9 to 10% because of all the pollution and stuff. So oxygen's our number one nutrient. Think about it. How long can you live without it? About 4 to 7 minutes. It's the primary nutrient. You're losing a third of your oxygen by wearing a mask, and you up your carbon dioxide by 100%. So OSHA says that over 2,000 parts per million carbon dioxide in a workspace, they will shut that off. They will shut you down. But guess what? 2 breaths in a cloth mask, and you're at 2,000 parts per million. So
yeah, and if you keep breathing, you go up to 10 or more.
Yeah, it's it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. So I wanted to share one other thing here. This guy sent me this on Facebook, and it is shocking. This is shocking, and it's a picture of the different disease death rates around the world and on a daily basis. Okay, so here's what it says. MERS, 2.3 people die a day. SARS, 3.2 people die per day. Ebola, 5.3. Sleeping sickness, 10 people die a day. Chickenpox, 12 people die a day. Hepatitis A, 20 people a day die in the world. Da Nang fever, 50 people a day. And then a couple things I can't pronounce, 53 and 55 people. And then COVID-19 coronavirus, 56 people a day are dying in the world. This is the number we need to look at, not their fake case number lies. Right. Yellow fever, 82 people die a day. Rabies, 162 people die a day. Oh my God, let's shut the economy down for rabies.
No, kill all the dogs. We have to eliminate dogs and raccoons from the planet.
Yeah, we got to get measles, 247 people dying a day. Shut the economy down. Meningitis, 329. Cholera, 392. Typhoid, 396. Whooping cough, 440. Norovirus, 548. How come we're not shutting down for the norovirus?
Well, here's the other thing is SARS.
10 times.
SARS is a COVID virus. Why don't we have a vaccine for SARS yet?
Yeah.
And remember that swept through, and it was really disastrous for a short while. So
yeah, it was deadly. The seasonal flu, 1,027 people a day are dying of the flu. Well, not now because it's 98% of it's disappeared.
No, the flu's been cured. You didn't hear?
Right, but do you see
COVID
this?
cured the
Rotavirus,
flu.
1233, shingleosis, 1644, malaria, 2,002 people a day are dying, HIV and AIDS, 2110, pneumonia. Older people get pneumonia and they go to the hospital. 2,216 people a day dying of pneumonia. 3,014 are dying of tuberculosis. So we have shut our economy down and collapsed our world. We've created, I know in the United States, over 800, up to 800,000 people are projected to die of suicide because they've lost their businesses, they've lost their will to live. And the UN predicted earlier this year that about 30 million children are going to die of starvation.
Right.
In addition, because of the supply chain delays,
that's
because of this COVID deal. So we are killing people by the millions.
Yep.
We are destroying businesses. We're breaking the economy. And I think it's a big, all planned out on purpose. And people need to wake up and take this country back and take their health back.
Are you referring to the reset?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get there, I want to share with you, this was my car yesterday. I was driving down the freeway and this piece of flimsy cloth flew up in front of the car, and it got attached to the front fender or the grill on the car. Mm-hmm. And I drove for a little bit and I kind of laughed. I thought, oh my gosh, my car is now wearing a mask. and then the next thing I thought was, oh my goodness, what's going to happen if the car can't get in the air intake that it needs to service the engine? Mm-hmm. Is it going to overheat? And I wasn't keen to pull over on a busy highway. So I kept driving thinking I'll get to the exit and then I can pull over. And I actually couldn't get that far. All of a sudden it got a little bit steamy in the car. It got hot in the car because the air conditioning stopped working. And I thought, wow, it's really hot in here. And then ding, ding, the car engine light went on.
Yeah. Good analogy. Great analogy, because people forget that your car is a machine and your body is a machine and it's a business. And
we don't have the check engine light.
Yeah. Yeah. I call them check body lights. Here's the check body lights. You're on pharmaceutical drugs. You're overweight. You're tired. You're fatigued. You have MS, you've got cancer, you've got bleeding elbows like me, you're pooping rocks like I was, all these problems. These are check body lights and you need to pay attention to them. And if you don't, what's going to end up happening is your car's going to go off to the side of the road, your body, and it's not going to work, or you're going to end up in the hospital with a huge repair bill because you didn't take care of it up ahead of time. And then you're going to spend all this money you worked your life saving to try to get a little bit of your health back. And it's just a poor method. And that's what a lot of people are falling into.
Right. So talk to me now about detoxing. What do I know you recommend colonics. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to say the word, but apparently you're like really high on colonics.
Yeah, I love it. So I did when I first heard about it. So when we first went to Hippocrates, this doctor comes out and he's very fit. And he said, hey, look, it was called internal awareness. And he explained from the time you eat food until the time it exits your body, all the processes that are happening. I was like, wow, that was amazing. How come they didn't teach us this in school? This is awesome. I get it now. I understand. But he was setting us up because of the standard American diet and the cooked and the processed foods, the irradiated foods, the pasteurized foods, the boxed, the canned foods, and all this crap that we've been eating, and a sedentary lifestyle and the toxic chemicals. Average person has about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material and mucoid plaque that's lining the small and large intestine. And when he was talking, he actually pointed at me. He said, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And if you ever want to be healthy and not get sick and have disease like everybody else, you need to get that stuff cleaned out, period. So I was like, whoa. I ended up signing up for the thing. The next day I went in, they weighed me. I did a colonic or colon hydrotherapy session. This is where you set on a tube rectally and water gently goes in and out of your colon for an hour and it cleans all that funk and gunk out of there. Well, here's what happened. An hour later, I get weighed again. I was 10 pounds lighter, Sam. I had 10 pounds of impacted fecal material in my colon. Well, I wasn't the worst one. The record at the Institute's like 27 pounds. One lady dropped 27 pounds in one session. So, but the average person is walking around with 6 to 12 pounds of this stuff in their digestive tract. And it's a major problem because it houses harmful organisms like viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, parasites, and mutagens. Cancer loves it. Think about how much colon cancer we have. Well, your colon is a waste removal system. It's not a storage tank. And then that's what most of us are doing. It's turned into this storage tank deal, and it's polluted us. And when you get that stuff out of there, now you have the opportunity to heal the internal lining of the digestive tract. And if you can do that and get that good peristaltic action or gut action that moves your food through you, and those little hair-like structures called villi are healthy, and they can pull your nutrients through the intestinal lining and get into the bloodstream. If you have a really healthy, beautiful intestinal tract, then your face and your skin's going to look beautiful. Again, we talked about that earlier. Healthy on the inside, you're going to be healthy on the outside. So it's very important to get that stuff cleaned out.
And I think what people don't realize is that it's in your bowels, in your small intestine, your large intestine, that your body really extracts all the nutrients. It's not from the stomach.
No, the stomach just breaks it all down, puts it into liquid form so that it can be absorbed.
Right.
And that's why chewing your food is so important. We teach that, chewing your food well, chewing your food until liquefied to load the necessary enzymes into your food, amylase and lipase, to break down your starches and your fats. And chew your food. It's a mechanical process. And for those of you that are dealing with depression, Dr. Gabriel Cousins taught us that when you chew your food really well, you actually uptake your serotonin levels by up to 500%. That's your happy juice. It stimulates the meridian points in your teeth. So you don't need a serotonin supplement. You just need to chew your food a lot and stimulate those meridian points. That is it's just, the body's amazing, but we get away from it. We just we get away. The farther you are away from nature, the less healthy you're going to have. That's what it boils down to.
Well, Tim, it also goes, the way we're educated, and I see it in the reaction to COVID, that most people are sheep. They're not paying attention. They're not asking questions. They're literally not asking any questions because they've been taught not to ask any questions. Mm-hmm. And so even when it comes to their bodies, they go, well, there's the Burger King. Everybody goes to Burger King. I'll go to Burger King. And they're not asking, well, what is that actually going to do to me? I don't know if you ever saw the movie Super Size Me, but that guy,
I was just thinking about that.
Morgan Spurlock, right? And I've heard that it's been somewhat debunked, but we all know that in essence it's true. You can't eat like that and hope to remain healthy. And so, we really need to take a step back, which I think is so fabulous about what you're doing. And you're asking the tough questions and you're coming up with the answers. I know you have this green juice drink mix, which I have to say I really enjoy. And I've had green juice mixes before, and I tend to go straight for the veggies. But you have a whole thing about how our vegetables are not nearly as nutritious as they used to be, and they're not as nutritious as they need to be. And so you have this supplement that you guys do that's a green juice that actually tastes really good. That helps get the necessary nutrients into the body faster and better, right?
Yeah. So this is when I first got back from the Hippocrates Health Institute. I'm like, I'm going to heal myself with whole foods because I'm nature boy. I'm from Eastern Oregon. I grew up in the mountains and all this stuff. So I don't need anything else. But my research pointed to, I started studying soil because the reality is everything grows out of the soil. Unfortunately, our soils today have been farmed out. There's 85% of the nutrition is gone. There's major soil degradation. And so what that means is even if you switch over and you're going to whole wallet foods and you're spending, a lot of money on organic vegetables now and you're feeling better, and that's good because you're eliminating some of the chemical pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and that kind of stuff. That's great because you stop putting that body burden in. But the problem is that you're still on 15% fuel because 85% of the nutrients are gone. If it's not in the soil, it won't be in the plant. If it's not in the soil, it's not in the plant. It's not going to be in the animal that ate the plant. So whether you're eating the animals or the plants, it doesn't matter. Everybody's walking around at 15% octane basically, and they could bump it up. So we have this formula called Green 85 Juice Formula. Why did we develop it? Because I literally healed myself by juicing twice a day. When we left Hippocrates Health Institute, they actually are the ones who invented green drinks back in the 60s. And they said, look,
what do you mean by I healed myself? So I don't know that we covered what exactly you needed to heal from. You were overweight. I remember that. And your skin was
messed up. Yeah. I was bleeding rectally. I had leaky gut syndrome. I was tired.
Everything, your body was just not good.
Yeah. I was a mess. I had to have the organ removed. I mean, I was really rotting from the inside out, like most people out there, like a big percentage of people. And I didn't know what to do. They just were going to give me a synthetic drug, and that wasn't the answer, you know. And then I got surgery, so more drugs and surgery. And so I turned it around by juicing. And when we left, they had this. It's called the Take It Home program lecture. And you go there and they say, and one of the things they said was like, when you go home, if you're not doing 2 of these concentrated green juices a day, do not expect the same results. You're not on the Hippocrates protocol. So I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. Because these people look 10, 15, 20 years younger than their age. I went in there feeling crappy. Day 1, my acid reflux was gone. By the end of a week, I lost 11 pounds. My energy went through the roof. I felt amazing. Charles, I looked at Charles because we went there because my buddy had chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is this blood cancer, supposedly incurable. And I looked at him. I was like, do you feel as good as I do? And he's like, yeah. I was like, man, this is like the fountain of youth. We found it. I'm like, how come people don't know about this? I was just like, the veil was lifted. I'm all excited about it. I'm like, I said, dude, I'm going to go home and do this. I'm going to do this whole plant-based thing with you. And keep in mind, I grew up hunting and fishing. So for me to make that statement, it was a big statement, but I felt so good. I don't care who you are or how many credentials you have behind your name. Nobody could have talked me out of it because I felt good. And I had first person experience with it. I said, man, we're going to go home. I'm going to do all plants except for bacon. I'm going to keep that. And then we're going to knock this thing out of the park.
Okay, that seems reasonable. Just plant and bacon. Okay, I can get behind.
Yeah, so that was my plan. Then I read a book on the way home called The China Study by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and he talked about the Korean War. At the Korean War, they dissected the hearts of like about 300 young men that had come back in wartime, and 73.6% of them had severe onset of heart disease in their 20s. And I'm thinking, I'm 37. I've got heart disease. Because nobody ate more meat and dairy than me. I mean, I was just pounding it, because we had our own Hereford cattle and deer and elk. And, my dad he would only let me have 3 ducks in the refrigerator all the time. And me and my buddy Sean had a duck hunting competition. So I was eating ducks and crock potting them and eating them for breakfast. I had to eat a duck for breakfast so my dad could let me go shoot another one.
Right.
So I had pounded my body with animals for a long time, and I knew it. So I just gave up meat completely for 8.5 years. Nowadays, if you went out and caught a salmon or something and you smoked it and said, hey, Tim, you want a piece? I'll have it, but I'm probably 98, 99% plants. I just don't freak out about it anymore. You don't
necessarily advocate that for everybody.
Well, no, I said for everybody, it's like we want to get people to the foundation. Forget about the diet right out of the gate. We got to get your body cleaned out. We got to get these toxins out of your body. We got to clean the pathway of elimination. We got to get 6 to 12 pounds of funk and gunk and junk out of you, clean the fat, clean the blood, clean the muscle tissue, and then get the basics down, drinking lots of purified water, chewing your food until liquefied, avoiding liquids with meals to not dilute those digestive enzymes you work so hard to create in your mouth that break your food down. And then do some breath exercises before you eat to bring the blood from your extremities back into your organ systems, because so many people are in stress mode today. And when you're stressed out, your body doesn't know the difference. It's like a saber-toothed tiger's chasing you. So you have to, your blood leaves the organs to go to the hands to fight or flight. Well, you can't digest your food really good. So we teach people to just take a big, deep breath in through the nose, and then pause at the top, and then release out through the mouth. Just let it all go. And then pause at the bottom with empty lungs. Right. And then back in through the nose, pause at the top and hold, and then release, and then be grateful for your food. Be grateful that your body is there. Your body is a self-regenerating mechanism. It's going to heal itself. This body's going to take the nutrients in. It's going to get rid of what it doesn't need. Be grateful for the people in your life, and then consume your meal, and you're going to digest your food really well. And less than 1% of the population's doing the breath work. Less than 2% of the population's doing avoiding liquids with meals. Less than 4% of the population is chewing their food, and less than 5% of the population is drinking adequate amounts of water. So we have major rooms for health improvement. And I know this works because I've done it on myself. I'm 47. I feel like I'm 19. I've got energy coming out my ears. It's ridiculous every day.
You don't look a day over 60.
I know. Thank you so much. I feel really, really good. And I have over 600 private clients I've coached. We've got thousands of people around the world now, and we ship all over the world. So we have every day now, we have emails coming in saying, Tim, my energy's better. My gas and bloating's better. I'm losing weight. And I haven't even gotten the products yet because of the stupid COVID supply chain delays. It can take 2 weeks to a month to get stuff to Europe or Australia. So these things are coming in, and people are having time to practice these we call them our core 4 secrets. They're already getting results because they're getting the foundation in place to health and just getting back to nature.
I love the fact that you bring up gratitude because we're heading into Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving to me is the most important holiday. I think it's my favorite. I don't know if it's the most important one, but it is my favorite. And it's because we are basically forcing people to acknowledge that they are grateful for something. And, uh, and I'll say this, gratitude, I think it's Dennis Prager who said it. Gratitude is the single most important ingredient to happiness.
Yeah, it's the most powerful emotion. Actually, it's even more powerful than love when measured. Pretty interesting. So being grateful, that's what I was doing. Remember earlier when you're trying to get a hold of me, I was out in our frozen grass meditating and being grateful. I'm like, I'm so grateful for this. I was actually enjoying the cold weather on my skin, how cold it was. And I was like, wow, what an experience to feel cold. You know, it's like, why not just be grateful for that? Because, you know, I wanted, and the mist and the geese were flying around me and the sun was coming up through the mist. It was beautiful.
When I'm outside and it's cold, I'm grateful to know that I can go back inside.
Yeah. And then you're grateful when you go inside too. Right. It's so cool.
When my husband was healing from his 3 strokes, he saw a psychiatrist and the guy counseled him, regardless of whether you are a believer or not.
Right.
That you ought to run through what he called the grateful prayer. And that's just a prayer that you say, and please don't say it by rote, but come up with things that you are grateful for when you're standing in the line at the bank, or when you're standing in the fast food line, or shopping, or, you know, sort of mindlessly in your car at the stoplight. Go through in your head the things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful for the hot shower I had this morning. I'm grateful for the breakfast that I ate. I typically throw my bed on there because I'm very grateful for a soft bed. And, you know, and it colors everything in a much rosier light. And so, you know, I like to say that we are people who are wanters. We want, we always strive. And that's a good thing, because if you're not striving, if you're not trying, then it's very difficult to be just happy for any length of time. But at the same time as we're striving, we feel like we're missing something, right? Because we want that other thing, whether it's love or a new house or a better car or a better job, right? So at that point, you have to take stock of where you are and be grateful for what you have. Because if you don't do that, then you're just in this state of longing and dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
And so Thanksgiving really brings that home in a way. I think that the Pilgrims, when they came up with the idea to be grateful for the harvest, I think they really had something there, you know, something that people could really tap into. That's why we still celebrate it hundreds of years later.
Yeah. And you know, when you're grateful, you know what else that does? It also, oh man, this chair's messed up. It raises your immune system. You actually boost your immune system when you're grateful, and you have, that's why I think that, you know, there's also those power poses, you know, where you can stand like Superman or Superwoman.
Yep.
Just for a minute or two, you actually boost your immune system. This is measured. Harvard had done studies and stuff on this, and people's immune systems actually go up.
So instead of wearing a mask, I just raise my arms. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. Or you can put your hands on you can put your hands on your hips like this.
Yeah. Superman.
Just stand there in a power pose, and literally 2 minutes of doing that, and your immune system goes up. It goes up.
I feel better already. It's true, actually. Your posture.
Yeah, you feel better.
Emotions.
You absolutely do. You feel much better by doing that.
So I was in the store and they offered me a mask, and I just said this: no, I'm just going to raise my arms. We'll be okay.
Yeah. You know, all the stores I go to, there's those signs that says masks are mandatory.
Yes.
I just walk in. Nobody ever says anything to me, hardly at all. Sometimes they have their little gatekeepers there, and then I kind of grab my chest and I'm like, I have a medical condition and I can't wear one. And 90% of the time they're like, okay, come on in.
It's also a religious thing, because the masks are the occult. They're occultish. And so I refuse to wear one for that reason. It was also a tool of slavery. Back in the days of slavery, they would mask their slaves to shut them up and keep them quiet. And I am so offended by the mask. And I'm sad that we are in a state in this culture right now where there are so many people who are brainwashed to think that somehow I'm hurting them by not wearing a mask. In fact, I'm offended you didn't come on the podcast today wearing a mask. Sorry. So let me ask you this. They're trying to cancel Thanksgiving. That seems to be pretty evident. Gavin Newsom came out and said no gatherings more than 10 people. And then he promptly went off to a 300-person birthday party in a restaurant where no one was wearing masks or social distancing. And when he got caught, he said, no, they ate outside, which is patently untrue because the photos prove that they ate outside.
Yeah, they were inside, right next to each other.
Telling us one thing, and then they're doing something else.
Yeah. Yep. It's to the point now where they're just being so blatant about it because they think that this is the push. This is the push. Like, we're in control now. It's a power grab, and people don't realize that what's behind all of this. I mean, talk
briefly about the Great Reset since you brought it up.
Yeah. So the way I look at it is the United States military, which is the strongest military on the planet. It's the only thing standing between us and communism right now. That's it. So if that falls,
well, that and the Second Amendment.
Yes, the Second Amendment. So we have those two things, so we can protect ourselves, a well-armed militia to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government, right? And that's why gun sales are through the roof. It's hard to get even ammo anymore. I mean, it's getting crazy out there because people are waking up, and people aren't stupid. So I don't know if you saw Sidney Powell yesterday with Rudy Giuliani and these other lawyers and stuff. I mean, man, that was just like, yes.
Yeah,
right?
It's pretty amazing.
Now, it's funny because I'm upstairs watching it, and then downstairs, CNN's playing. And they're taking little snippets and clips, and they're just making fun. Oh, Hugo Chavez. Oh, just pull out the old Hugo Chavez thing. Yeah. And then they'll take little snippets of what they say and then make fun of them and put it down, and it's negative. Then I come up here, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, no, this is the real deal. Like, these people are – we are not going to –
My son commented, I can't remember who it was who came out and said, the founding fathers didn't envision that you needed an AR-14 to go hunting. And my son said, yeah, they also didn't write the Second Amendment because the deer were coming.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really right now, it's do you want to continue to have a free country? And then and just look around, our freedoms have been slowly being stripped. The medical freedoms. Oh, yeah. Being stripped. I mean, where you have to use a religious exemption or a personal exemption to get out of vaccines. Like this, it's like there's five places right now. Like what is it? California is one of them. I think New York. There's places where your children have to be vaccinated right now, and it's crazy now. It's like you don't even have to have permission. If your child, the way the laws are being written, if the child enters the school, that's informed consent.
That's considered consent, and you have to and you are allowing, by putting your child in school, you are allowing the government to vaccinate them, and also you're allowing them to get abortions on demand without your consent or knowledge. It's crazy what's happening, and of course, I'm all about the home education, but the Great Reset. So all the billionaires met in Davos, and they decided what was going to be best for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I like to say is I sort of coined this word, they're hybridizing us because they're putting us on a grid, and you will be boxed in with very little room to move if this is allowed to go through. We've heard it from Justin Trudeau, who said that that the Great Reset is here to stay, and he's excited about it. Gavin Newsom has said that this pandemic is allowing us to do things that we would never have been allowed to do before, and you have to ask yourselves why, and then why are they limiting our ability to give thanks at Thanksgiving? Why is that so interesting for them to do to them? And they don't follow the same dictums themselves. So clearly they're not afraid of COVID.
No. So here's how it's been working for decades. They've been slowly, it's like putting the frog into the water and slowly turning the temperature up and boiling the frog. Or the way I like to say it, it's like, you can't just run out and catch a herd of elk. Okay, they're going to take off. They're going to bust through a fence. They're gone. I mean, they're muscular. They're going to take off. You can't do it. But what you can do is you can throw a little feed out there, and then dig a fence post hole and put up a fence post. Now they're going to look at the fence posts. It's okay. They're going to eat the food. The next day there's 2 fence posts, then 3, then 4. Then after a year, there's a whole bunch of fence posts in. And then they start stringing the wire around, and they just keep feeding them. And they have a pattern. They get used to it. They just keep going in and out, and there's a trail that gets made. right? There's a trail,
Yep.
and back and forth, back and forth. All of a sudden, all the fence it's all strung up. And the elk are going in every morning to eat because they keep putting the food there. Then they put a gate on there, and the elk go in to eat, and they walk up and they shut the gate behind them. And that's where we're at right now. Their hand is on the gate. They're pushing on that gate. And if that gate gets shut and we lose our election integrity and we lose our medical freedoms, it's over. It's going to be China. Okay. Now here's the thing. The Chinese Communist Party is involved with the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
They are killing people. The people that practice Falun Gong, which is like a meditation yoga type of thing, there's a huge movement. Hundreds of millions of people are doing it. And they started doing propaganda and shutting them down. They've arrested the yoga instructors kind of, and then they put them in these prisons, and they're selling their organs. This has been going on.
They're doing organ.
They're involved in the World Health Organization. Bill Gates is involved in the World Health Organization. He's putting money in there, and he was also friends with Jerry Epstein. Guess who's friends with Bill Gates? Dr. Fauci. So by personal connection, they're all scumbags, and we should not listen to any of them. These people need to be locked up. They need to be tried. They need to go through the military tribunal, and we need to take our country back and not beat around the bush anymore because we're losing it.
I wish you were more opinionated. It's hard to know where you stand. Tim James, he's the host of the Health Hero Show and podcast, and he's also the CEO and founder of chemicalfreebody.com. So for more information, you can go to chemicalfreebody.com. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sam. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks. All right, so that's my show. I want to thank you all for joining me. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. I'm finally working out all of these kinks, and we'll see you guys again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.